What's up, you guys? Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to the confusing world of running shoes. Thank you guys for tuning in, watching this video, and coming through. If you wouldn't mind, if you haven't done so already, please click that subscribe button. If you're one of the many people that maybe run through this channel, watch the videos, maybe find this content informative, please click that subscribe button so you will be able to see more content when it comes out. Also click the bell because you'll be first notified of when new content drops. Also, at the end of this video, if you enjoyed this, if you found this video informative, please give this video a thumbs up and share it with your running friends. Greatly helps the channel out and make sure that we can reach a broader audience through the YouTube algorithm system. So we're going to get into it. Going to talk about building a running shoe rotation, and is it necessary for you to have all of these different shoes in your running shoe rotation? So we're going to dive right into it, and really the basis of every running shoe rotation is a solid daily trainer. Now, the shoes that I show you here are examples of each category. They aren't necessarily indicative of what's going to work for you, or the different array of shoes that are out there on the market from all the different manufacturers. So just keep that in mind when I'm pulling these shoes out, that I'm not necessarily endorsing a specific type of shoe or a specific type of brand. It's always recommended that you go try these shoes out, go to your local running shoe store, get a gait analysis done by a professional to see what type of shoe is really going to work for you, whether you need a stability shoe or a neutral running shoe, if you're a forefoot striker, heel striker, midfoot striker, all those type of things. If you're a cadence runner or if you're a stride runner, these are all things that are going to be necessary to know of what shoe is really going to work for you. So always check out a professional running shoe store and try these shoes out if you can. So the first one is the foundation of, I think, every running. So if you are just getting started into running, welcome. Congratulations on your running journey. You will get there. It does take time. So, but having a good, solid foundation of a daily trainer is important. So a shoe like this one, the Saucony Ride 15, which has been one of my favorite just overall daily trainers, is going to be important for you. This is a shoe that's going to kind of take up a majority of your miles that you're going to put in per week. So whether you run 3 days a week, 4 days a week, 5 days a week, or if you try to run 7 days a week, you're going to need a good, solid daily trainer that's going to eat up the miles. It's going to be around for a long time. Now, daily trainers aren't necessarily super expensive. So they usually range anywhere from about $100 to $140, maybe $150 for a good solid one. Now, I have on my channel shown other daily trainers that are below that $100 threshold, mainly the shoes like the Winflow series, the Nike Winflow series. But typically you want to spend about $100 or more. So this shoe comes in at $140, and it hits all the categorical needs for a daily trainer. It's relatively light, it's durable, it's sturdy, it's going to last a long time, it's got a nice breathable upper to it. But this is a shoe that's going to be comfortable for long runs, for short runs, for maybe even some speed workout. It's going to have versatility in a shoe. So this is kind of like your solid foundation. It's just a daily trainer. So this, something like the Nike Pegasus, the Brooks Ghost, whichever one they're on. I'm trying to think of some of the other ones just off the top of my head. The New Balance, I want to say it's the 880 is a good solid daily trainer, the 880 version, whichever 52 or something that they're on right now. I don't even know. But those type of running shoes are going to be a good solid foundation. Asics, if you're looking at Asics, the Asics Gel Cumulus is a good solid daily trainer, or the Asics Nova Blast is also a good solid daily trainer to go on as well. But something like this, just using this as an example, does a really good job. Solid platform. It's going to eat up a lot of mileage for you per week. So this is really where everything starts for running shoe. This would be a good one shoe rotation. This is a shoe that's going to give you everything that you need to start. Now when you start getting a little bit more involved with running, you start picking up the mileage a little bit. Maybe the pace isn't necessarily coming up, but you're starting to pick up the mileage. You're going to need a shoe that maybe needs a little bit more comfort, something that can kind of pamper those legs a little bit, especially when they're barking at you because you've done some speed workout maybe in this shoe, maybe you've done some daily mileage, and maybe you need something a little bit softer to kind of comfort those legs a little bit. And that's where a shoe like this one comes into play, would be the Nike Invincible Run Flyknit. This as an example. There are other shoes out there that'll kind of do the trick for you. The Saucony Triumph is another one. I mean, I could just keep on going. The Skechers Max Road 5, give me a second, New Balance More V3 or V4, New Balance Fresh Foam More V4. Anyways, but these are going to be really soft foam underneath your foot. You're going to have a much higher stack height of a really soft, really squishy type of foam underneath your foot. And this shoe is not going to be for those faster days. It's going to be for those very slow, very easy efforts that are just going to kind of absorb the impacts and just really kind of pamper your legs. So this is a really good example. It's a super popular shoe in this category as the max cushion shoe. But you also have ones that just come out like the Gel Nimbus 25 from Asics, which is a super high stack height shoe. You have the Hoka Bondi, is also a max cushion shoe. You could technically put the Clifton in that category as well. But it's definitely, those are going to be like your really squishy, really not necessarily going to have the most like rebound necessarily, but just something that absorbs the impacts really well and just allows you to put in those maybe longer miles, or on those days where your legs are really hurting, your feet are really hurting you, just a shoe that you can get in that's just going to kind of just absorb the impacts really well. So that's where your 2-shoe rotation comes in. You're going to have your daily mileage that can kind of pick up the pace a little bit, do some faster efforts, and then maybe a max cushion shoe just to kind of help you on those days where you need to recover, maybe need to just, you know, kind of absorb the impacts a little bit better. Now, after this, you might want to start picking up some speed. Incorporate some speed into your workouts, and that's where you're going to want maybe a kind of an interval shoe, something that you can really kind of be snappy, pick up the pace, do some 400-meter repeats. Just remember, you don't have to necessarily be like super fast. It's just getting that heart rate up to that threshold level and then bringing it back down for that minute and a half or whatever the break period is. Whatever training plan you're going through, just follow the training cycle. But this is a shoe that's going to be like for those 400-meter repeats or those intervals where you're only going for, you know, 30 seconds or a minute or whatever the training plan you have, where you're just minute on, minute off, minute on, minute off, or 1 mile on, maybe 2.5 minutes off, something like that. This is where a shoe like this kind of comes into play. Now this, again, an example, because this shoe's relatively old, but I still use it for those interval session days. This shoe is the Adidas SL20 version 1. It's very lightweight, as you can see, very low to the ground, low stack height, has a very snappy kind of not really cushion absorbing midsole foam. So it's going to be a little bit firmer, you're going to get a little bit more ground contact feel, but it's very lightweight, very snappy underfoot. That's where a shoe like this kind of comes into play, because it's not going to be for those long distances. It's not going to be where you're going at, 3.5 miles at your 4 or 5 effort. This is a shoe that's like short distance. You're doing 8, 9, 10 effort on your scale, doing some fast stuff. That's where this kind of shoe comes into play. And other shoes, you could use the Hoka Mach 4, really fits in that category really well. The Saucony Fast Twitch really is another one that fits into that category really well. And then there's a couple other ones out there on the market that you could use. The Nike Streak Fly is another one, but those shoes are really expensive. Now you can also do the Puma, what is it? The Liberate. I want to say it's the Liberate Nitro. Could be wrong. but it's one of those that is really low stack height. It's only like $100. It's relatively cheap, but it's low stack height, has a nitro foam, really lightweight, kind of feels like a track spike kind of racing shoe. But those shoes are going to be there for those interval fast efforts. That's what those are for. So this is when you want to incorporate. You don't have to spend a lot of money on these. They're usually relatively inexpensive, but they're just for those fast efforts. Now, 3 shoe rotation, so fast effort, recovery, and daily mileage. So that's kind of your 3 shoe rotation. 4 shoe rotation, this is where things kind of get a little muddled up here. I'm not going to lie, this is where things get a little crazy. So 4 shoe rotation, I would then incorporate kind of a long run tempo shoe. So this is going to be one of those tempo trainers that are like you're very close to a marathon racer, but not quite that type of marathon racing shoe. And again, as an example, so I know I could get some hate for this one, but like this, the Nike Zoomfly 5 is kind of that idea of like a tempo trainer. It is a high stack height shoe, so it is going to have a lot of cushion underneath it. It's not going to be as soft as your max cushion shoe. So this is going to be those slow, easy efforts. This shoe is going to be for those faster efforts. It's got a plate in the midsole, so it's not going to flex very well, but what it's supposed to do is it's supposed to act like a spring for your foot. So it's going to compress and then pop off your toe. So it's going to kind of conserve energy, but this is where this shoe, your fast A shoe, your interval shoe, is for those quick, short efforts. This is going to be for those kind of faster but longer efforts. So this is where you're going to be maintaining a faster pace for a long period of time. So say you're having to hold your 7 or maybe 6.5, 7 effort for 3 miles or 4 miles. So you're kind of going a little bit faster than you normally are. You're kind of getting up into that heart rate zone where you're not quite threshold, but you're maybe 1 or 2 steps below. That's where a shoe like this kind of comes into play. Has enough cushion to absorb the impacts over those long miles, but yet you're going to get a nice snappy pop and return out of these shoes. So other ones, Saucony Endorphin Speed, that one's super popular. The Puma Deviate Nitro or Deviate Nitro 2. I'm just trying to think of ones off the top of my head. Technically you could throw the Adidas Boston 10 in there, but it's not really my first pick on that. But it kind of falls into that category. So yeah, but yeah, Zoomfly 5 is another one of those that's in that category. So, but you can use this shoe, technically speaking, as your marathon racer. Oh, Asics Magic Speed 2, forgot about that. But you could technically use this as your marathon racer, especially if you're not really going for elite kind of stuff. You know, if this is comfortable for you and you feel like you can maintain a nice steady pace for that, you know, whether it's a 10K or you're doing the 13.1 half marathon or the 26.2, if this is comfortable for you, use this type of shoe. There's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing that tells you have to get an elite marathon racing shoe in order to do that. So this is kind of the trainer, but it could also be your racer if you wanted to do that competition. So that would be my 4 shoe rotation. So tempo, long run, possibly marathon racer, your interval shoe, your recovery day shoe, and your daily trainer, right? And then finally we get into the controversial one, is your marathon racing shoe. Again, using this as an example because I had it sitting out here with me, is the Saucony Endorphin Pro. Now this is a super lightweight, super breathable carbon fiber plate, so it's extremely rigid type of shoe. It usually has a relatively high stack height, has to fit within World Athletics measurements, so it can't be any higher than 40 millimeters of stack height in the heel. It's usually using some sort of Pebax material in the midsole foam, which is just super bouncy, squishy, all that kind of stuff. But it has the carbon fiber plate and usually has some sort of increased toe spring to it. So very similar to your Tempo Day long run shoe, but in a more lightweight kind of compact whatever type of package here. And is this one absolutely necessary for you as an average runner? No, it's not. I'll be completely honest with you. It's really not a necessary shoe for you to have. Now, there are some marathon racing shoes that do work well for average runners, and that's a whole other video that I'll get into when it comes to carbon fiber plated shoes. Is it necessary for an average runner? Do they benefit you? I did some research. I'll be doing another video on that here in the future. But in general, is this a necessary shoe? No. If you feel comfortable using one of these, sure, but these shoes can end up being very expensive, anywhere from around $200 to $275 or $300. So is it really a necessary shoe? I would say no. It's really not. But if you want it to complete that shoe rotation, make sure you buy one of these maybe on the maybe secondhand market, or wait for a sale to come around and use a discount code or whatever and get these for an extremely cheap price, or wait for last year's model to go on sale. It's just, it's not, my opinion, it's not necessarily worth paying the $200 and something for these type of shoes. So yeah, that kind of completes the shoe rotation. Now, as an average runner, the problem that comes in is there are some shoes that do cross over into other platforms. So I know this is kind of a long-winded video, so I apologize, guys, because there's just a lot of information to share. But there are in some instances where these shoes do cross over into other platforms. So you do have to kind of keep that in mind. Something like the Hoka Mach 4 can be used as a daily trainer, but it can also be used as a tempo shoe. It can be used for your interval efforts. It's just a very well-rounded overall shoe. And that's where something like that can kind of work. You don't necessarily have to have a plated racer either, or a plated shoe like even the Zoom Fly 5. You don't have to have one of these in order to run a marathon. If this shoe is comfortable for you to run a 26.2 mile run in it, run in this. If you're not running for a competitive win or trying to be the best in your class, you're just trying to complete a 26.2 mile, go with this. Go with a long run, high cushion shoe, something that's going to help you get through the 26.2 miles comfortably. You don't have to have a plated shoe at all in order to run those races. So again, a lot of information here, guys. A lot of shoes can kind of cross over. It's really up to you. My personal opinion would be going with the 2 shoe rotation. You don't necessarily need to have all the fast day stuff. Most of your runs, even your faster stuff, can be run in your daily trainer. Again, make sure you go and try some of these shoes out. Go visit your local running shoe store, get a gait analysis done, and let them help you set up a good shoe rotation for you. But to me, this is all you need. Daily trainer, long run recovery shoe. That's it. So anyways, guys, if you like this video, please give this video a thumbs up. Also subscribe if you haven't done so already. And never pay full price for running shoes. And as always, guys, enjoy the run.